So several years ago, Richard Rohr and James Marcinata, both priests, one's Franciscan, the other's Dominican. And Richard Rohr wrote a prayer, and James Marcinata wrote a song. Here's the prayer. God of all races, nations, and religions, you know that we cannot change others, nor can we change the past, but we can change ourselves. We can join you in changing our only and common future where love reigns the same over all. Help us not to say, Lord, Lord, to any nationalist gods, but to hear the one God of all the earth and to do God's good thing for this one world. But when the people of God become what we pray, the kingdom of God is revealed. We are all guilty of murder and adultery, every last one of us. Now, Jesus normally seems like a pretty loving, forgiving, sort of a chill kind of guy. So what's going on here? There's only one way that I can understand this passage. And it has to do with the way in which our thoughts, our mind, precedes our actions. Jesus directly says that our inner attitudes, our inner state of mind, are the real sources of our problems, preceding the outward behaviors. Most religion, in my opinion, is obsessed with a small number of outer behaviors, and we clergy sometimes think it's our job to enforce these outer behaviors. And this is largely a waste of God's time and our time. Jesus says not only that you must not kill, but you must not even harbor hateful thoughts and feelings. It clearly begins with the necessity of a pure heart, a pure mind, a clean conscience, knowing that the outer behavior will follow. It always does. And so too often we force the outer, and the inner remains fully operative within us, like a cancer. And this explains why so many good Christians are still racist, classist, sexist, and homophobic, and oftentimes proud of it. So I'm touching on politics this morning. Going on vacation real soon. But I'm going to predict on this. One, everybody has their own political views. Two, politics is inextricably linked to morality. Three, so how do I prevent my personal views from leaking into our worship service, a service where we ought to speak about moral living? Four, the only solution that I've ever been able to find over the years, incomplete and imperfect but workable, is this: to go underneath any given political issue, whatever it may be. So gun violence, immigration, gerrymandering, Russian interference, whatever it may be, and then speak to the undergirding spiritual principles that guide our lives. 5, I find politics distressing. Sometimes I just want to scream. And sometimes I just can't seem to escape it. Radio, TV, internet, conversations with friends. And so therefore I'm highly motivated to make Sunday morning in this beautiful sanctuary a politics-free zone. Sanctuary in the old classic sense of a holy place to escape and be safe. I will preserve that holy status until my dying day. yet we must also speak of moral living. 6. Therefore, I try to speak of the undergirding spiritual principles. For example, the linkage between our thinking and the world we create is such a principle. So therefore, I'd like to share one more thought with you this morning. It comes from Charles Magee. Don't know if you've heard of him or not. 1873 to 1914. A French poet, essayist, political thinker. And one thing fascinating about him is that he's quoted and beloved by the hard left and the hard right of the previous century. He's quoted regularly by a number of liberal Swiss theologians, and get this, he was the favorite political thinker of Benito Mussolini. And here I am quoting him. My God. But he said this: everything begins in mysticism and ends in politics. Everything begins in mysticism and ends in politics. And I think what he means, or what he meant, is that our experience of God, not any standard received teaching, no dogma, no catechism, but rather our first-hand experience of God ultimately informs how we then act in the world. Our inner heart and soul and mind experience of the holy, of the sacred, of the divine is the ultimate energy behind how we then act and behave. Richard Rohr, who wrote that poem, said this about it, quote, "Transformative change in politics depends so much on having a clear view of the desired end. And where does that vision come from? Possibilities come from ideologies or party platforms or political candidates. But for the person of faith, that vision finds its roots in God's intended and preferred future for the world. Comes not as a dogmatic blueprint, but as an experiential encounter with God's love, flowing like a river from God's throne, nourishing trees with leaves for the healing of the nations, like it says in Revelation. This biblically infused vision, resonant from Genesis to Revelation, pictures a world made whole, with people living in community, where no one's despised or forgotten, where peace reigns, and the goodness of God's creation is treasured and protected as a gift." So such a vision strikes the political pragmatist as idyllic, unrealistic, and ultimately irrelevant. But the person of faith, whose inward journey opens his or her life to the explosive love of God, knows that this vision is the most real of all. It is a glimpse of creation's purpose and a glimmering of the Spirit's movement amid the world's present pain and brokenness and despair. Years ago, I had a rare opportunity to get some training from the Alban Institute in Washington, D.C. It's no longer there now. But in the notion of conflict management, I envisioned at that time, foolishly in hindsight, of potentially being a consultant to conflicted churches rather than being a pastor. Because after all, every church I'd ever been part of, and all those that I knew about, had some type of conflict. And so I took both the basic and the advanced training, and I did consult with some churches for a time. For ease of understanding the broad spectrum of conflict, they divided it up into 4 categories. Level 1, well, not so bad. 2 people or 2 groups disagree on how to proceed
about an issue. Level 2. More than disagreement, the other group is characterized by an exceptionally low IQ and also deeply morally compromised. There's some name calling involved. Level 3. Reputations are ruined. Reconciliation is hardly entertained and actually seen more as capitulation. The other is seen no longer as stupid, but rather clever and evil. Any hope for peace is very few. And level 4 is where guns are involved. So here's the rub. The core mistake churches make, and in our general political lives, is that the view that conflict, that is, all conflict, is bad, whereas in reality, level 1 is wonderful. Level 1, general disagreement, but genuine and civil and respectful, can and does lead to a third way, often not envisioned by either group before. Quaker theologian Parker Palmer has a hopeful and not Pollyannish view on this. He writes, quote, "Human beings have a well-demonstrated capacity to hold the tension of differences in ways that lead to creative outcomes and advances. It's not an impossible dream to believe we can apply that capacity to politics. In fact, our capacity for creative tension holding is what made the American experiment possible in the first place. America's founders, despite their obvious flaws, had the genius to establish a form of government in which differences, conflict, and tension were understood not as the enemies of a good social order, but as the engines of a better social order." That attitude is medicine for our times.
So 3 things. 1, according to Jesus, be careful how you think about others. Whether you insult them, or think ill about them behind their back, or call them you fool. Jesus was pretty clear on this. How you think leads directly then to how you treat and interact with others. As well, it has a lot of bearing on the general health of your soul.
Second, your mysticism does inform your politics. Your experience of God, your vision of God's world, informs then how you act in the world. All the way from, do you bother to pick up a piece of litter, all the way to how you vote. And third, disagreement isn't bad. Rather, civil disagreement can lead not just to more pragmatic solutions, not just to solutions capable of getting enough votes, but to holier solutions, engines of a better social order. So like it said in the refrain, God help us to become what we